wäre es
into the final straight of the 25-26 Google Pixel Frauen-Bundesliga season, raising the curtain on Matchday 21, a clash of DFB-Pokal semi-finalists. SGS Essen and Bayern München are set to meet in the final four of Germany's Soul Cup competition at the start of April. Tonight at the Stadion an der Hafenstraße, it's not knockout football, but Essen need to play like it is. While Bayern already have one hand firmly on a fourth straight Meisterschale, Essen find themselves 3 points adrift of safety and running out of time to save themselves. But can they pull off the upset of the season to give their survival hopes a shot in the arm? James Thorogood on the mic for another Friday night showdown under the floodlights, a rock and roll start to proceedings in the Ruhrpott region, where women's football is changing and Essen's status is under threat. Little time remaining in the 25-26 Frauen-Bundesliga campaign. Bayern are chasing yet another title, Essen hoping to avoid their first ever relegation. Essen, the only Frauen-Bundesliga team not to be associated with a professional men's side. The ladies in Lila first won promotion back in 2004. They've been in the top flight for 22 straight seasons since. But this, one of their worst ever campaigns. A look at the team news, starting with host Essen, head coach Helene Jacques, making 3 changes to the side that lost 4-0 to Hoffenheim last weekend. Lena Ostermeier drops out of the back line to be replaced by Jacqueline Meissner. In midfield, Natasha Kowalski makes way for Laura Putz, while Leonie Kupp drops to the bench to be replaced by Shari van Bell on the right wing. Franziska Wildfeuer, our referee this evening. As for the Bayern lineup in what is their final warm-up act ahead of their Champions League quarter-final first leg against Manchester United, head coach Jose Barcola freshening his side up a week on from their 3-0 win over Köln. A shake-up at the back sees Julia Gwynn return at right back, while Vanessa Gilles comes in from Magdalena Eriksson. The only other change sees Franziska Kett drafted in on the left wing in the continued absence of Clara Bu. A more advanced role for one of the breakout stars of the season. Linda Dahlmann this week signing a contract extension with Bayern, a former Essen player herself, back on her former stomping ground. Head coach Jose Barcola describing her as a legend and one of the best footballers in the country. Wonderful atmosphere at the Stadion an der Hafenstraße. Over 4,000 in attendance tonight. Essen hoping for a miracle in the relegation battle. They currently find themselves 3 points adrift of Hamburg and safety. And the league leaders Bayern München, not a team likely to show any mercy in the circumstances. Nila Harder, 12 goals in her last 12 league outings after that brace scored against Köln last Sunday. Also scored in the reverse fixture, which ended in a 4-1 win for Bayern. It's a clash of two teams set to meet in the DFB Pokal semi-finals tonight. It's a clash of teams at opposite ends of the Frauen-Bundesliga. Bayern München look to remain on course for a fourth straight Meisterschaft as they take on relegation-threatened SGS Essen. The women from Bavaria marching towards another title. James Thurrogate, your match commentator, delighted to have the pleasure of your company as we raise the curtain on Google Pixel Frauen-Bundesliga Matchday 21. 6 match days, what has been at times a riveting campaign. Essen certainly know that they are in a very precarious position right now. Helene Jacques brought in as the new head the winter after the initial partnership of Robert Augustin and Thomas Gersner didn't work out. Jacqueline Dunker then took charge, Jessica Wissmann took charge on an interim. Some good results that suggested that Essen were going to turn things around. The club, though, not handing her the permanent contract. A face of this see back. But so far, 3 draws, 3 losses from the 6 games under the Belgian head coach. And unfortunately, that's not enough to truly turn the tide. Ahead of the first leg, tie against in the Champions League, calling for his side to produce a Champions League level performance this evening. Of underestimating the side sat second from bottom, but lest we forget, the only team that have taken points off of Bayern this season are the team sat below Essen. Karl Zeiss Jena rock bottom in the Frauen-Bundesliga, but 1 point picked up in Munich, no less. Gwyn clipping in an early cross, and Palman came with the punch, not so convincing. Franziska Ketz recycles it back out to Julia Gwyn. Bayern are going to generate a lot of pressure. Harder. Oh, that's a lovely touch or two. Dahlmann lets it run for Gwyn. Looking for Harder! Bayern have the early breakthrough. Less than 4 minutes on the clock. And the woman in red-hot goal-scoring form makes it 13 goals in her last 13 league games. Stretch, and Harder has found her. Involved in the build-up, it all down. A lovely teasing cross from Julia Gwyn. Harder has the run on Meissner, and from there, it's stuff for one. She might have had a slow start to the season, but she is coming on strong when it matters most, and Bayern looking good. Fresh from to getting on the end of that cross from Franziska Ketz. Well, in the reverse fixture between these two sides back on Matchday 8, it was Essen who took an early lead. There was a rare outing in goal for Marla Gross, the Bayern goalkeeper. Ramona Meyer, inside 2 minutes, chanced her arm with a shot from range that got the better of Gross. Essen, one of the few teams that have led at any stage of a game against this season. After Meyer opened the scoring in that game, Lea Schuller scored the first of what was 2 goals that afternoon. Linda Darman scoring in the 88th minute to wrap things up with a 4-1 win. You look at the head-to-head record between these two sides. Bayern have won the last 13 matches in a row. Losing out in that midfield battle to Linden. Can't find the outlet pass, and now Bayern look to send it straight down the other end. Stanway, Franziska Kett has the run on Meisner, who catches Kett, and that could be red for Jacqueline Meisner. It's a last woman foul. It's a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. It is harsh on Essen, but Jacqueline Meisner picks up a card the colour of Bayern's kit. They lose their woman, their cap, their record. She took the risk. Bayern have a goal advantage, a woman advantage, and a free kick in a very promising position. On a night that was always going to be a tough one at the office for Essen, things just got a little, no, a lot harder. Simon Gilles is there. Hesitate. Women out. For it will the top that needed to be down side. Goes back to be really patient as they probe the Essen backline. Any bravery that Alain Jacques called for will be so much harder to tap into now. Got to think Essen, while Jacques talks about the good atmosphere in training, the fact that their hope is still big that they can survive this season. It's got tough. One of the best women's teams in the world, let alone Germany. And then you would go through the demoralising experience of inside 10 minutes, conceding twice and having your captain and most experienced player on the and not 9 star against the 3-time champ. To their credit, the over 4,000 fans in attendance, the majority of which are of an Essen disposition, will make themselves heard, and the man you can hear banging his drum, I guarantee you, he will not stop even if it's 8-0, 9-0 to Bayern later on in this game, which, truth be told, is now a very realistic possibility. If anything already, need to switch into damage limitation mode. Because you just don't know where the goal difference might play a part in the relegation battle. With points better off on 12. Grasp right now. Sends a shot wide here. And then still not out of the woods yet are Nürnberg, but Nürnberg are only still tension this point. Thing now, given the way the opening exchanges have transpired. So Nuremberg, you never know, 19 already be enough for them to secure their top tier status for another season. Right now, Essen, you have to say, they are staring over the edge of an abyss. And it's one they might not from. Stanway gives the ball away rather cheaply. Uncharacteristic as Becker-Stenner with a lovely little bursting run there through midfield. Keeps her run going on the outside. Paula Flach drives forward. Stenner with another chance to cross. Oh, Mahmutovic did drop the ball in a dangerous area. But there was no one there to capitalise for Essen. Becker-Stenner, who has now taken the captain's armband following Meissner's sending off. Essen, they are the only Frauen-Bundesliga team not to be associated with a professional men's side. Never been relegated since winning promotion back in 2004, but the threat this season has never been more real. Twice in the past they have narrowly escaped the drop. Go back to the 2009-10 campaign, their worst ever in club history. They finished 10th on 16 points, just 3 above the drop zone. Meanwhile, in the 2020-21 campaign, the COVID hit season, Essen survived by just 4 points. Meanwhile, this season, 3 points off of Hamburg and safety. And with tonight's result shaping up the way it is, Hamburg will have the chance to maybe fashion more breathing room, though truth be told, they'll need to pull off an upset for that to happen on the road against an Eintracht Frankfurt side who are now once again in a commanding position to finish 3rd place this season. Bremen do have 2 games in hand and a 4-point deficit. The difficulty for Bremen is those 2 games in hand are against the top 2. So tough to see them maybe picking up 4 points from those 2 matches. As a result, that spot, the Champions League qualification, is Frankfurt's to lose. But plenty of time for a few more twists and turns in that particular race. We might not get many more twists and turns tonight, but there could be a few more goals left in it. Palman. Again, a bit of commanding goalkeeping to catch the cross. You've got to appreciate that backing though from the home fans. They know that their side are in a very unpleasant position this season. They are well aware that their team are now in a very unpleasant position tonight against the league leaders. But they will back them till the very end. It would be a real shame to see this side relegated for the first time ever. Ramona Meyer Us by nickname. Certainly a very physical player, but has come off second best in that particular 50-50 in midfield. As we've seen already tonight in some of the ways that she's battled against Vanessa Gilles, Maya is someone that likes to put her body about. Bernadette Amani there, just shutting the door in midfield, and Maya's getting a shock to the shins, perhaps. Chance for everyone to take on a bit of hydration and a few instructions from the sidelines as well. Ramona Maya is not the type of player to be forced off the pitch unless she has to be. You can tell though that she's still in some discomfort. The woman who scored the opening goal in the reverse fixture. In the end, nothing more than a consolation effort in a 4-1 loss, but still, in a season void of highlights, that might be counted as one for Ramona Maya. Stanway finding Francisca Kett. Simon back to Stanway now. Looking for a cute pass over the top, doesn't quite find its mark. Very much the string pulling playmaker tonight, Georgia Stanway. This all part of her farewell tour. Set to leave Bayern in the summer. A big loss for the club, a big loss for the Frauen-Bundesliga, one of the league since moving to Munich. Offside flag is up, and that looked generous, to say the least. It didn't look like Caroline Simon was straying at all there. Right now, Essen waiting to be restored to 10 women on the pitch as opposed to being 2 women down. Maya is going to try and run it off. The knock picked up. Feels, unfortunately, like one of those nights where a few lumps might be taken out of Essen. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And while a loss was likely this evening, the manner of defeat will not help them in their current situation. Because imagine, like, even if Essen had lost 2-1 tonight, if they had given Bayern a good run for their money, they'd shown bravery, they'd had a moment in front of goal where they'd got an effort to their name, those are the types of things that, despite the result, could have at least built confidence for the remaining games this season. Instead, another demoralising 90 minutes of football for a side that are already short on confidence. And you have to go back to 2019 for the last time that Essen took points off of Bayern. That was a 2-2 draw in Munich in April of that year. Lea Schuler opened the scoring for Essen. Because you look at the team from back then and the names that are on the list: Marina Hegering, Jacqueline Meissner, Jana Feldkamp, Lena Oberdorf, Nicole Agnomi, Lea Schuler. Essen were a team that were at the pinnacle when it came to talent production, and they were this wonderful platform for players to use to propel themselves to bigger clubs. They were well aware of their status, but the status has been eroded even more, because while they are still producing talent and certain players are still getting picked off, Cassandra Porzi has been signed by Bayern ahead of this summer when the deal will go through. But Essen aren't quite churning out the talent the way they used to. They can't attract players. The huge regional threat to their status as one of the go-to teams in the Ruhrpott, because you've got the likes of Schalke and Bochum starting to build, and the biggest threat will be Borussia Dortmund, because they are making big moves. Announcing that Ralf Kellermann, the named sport that season, and that perhaps even will be joining Dortmund in the summer as well, a 3-year contract for Pop. Not on one of the most prolific German footballers of all. Right, her Herzensverein, the club of her heart, into the of Jopel. They've done the admirable thing of starting in the 7th tier of the footballing pyramid. Meanwhile, while I'm telling all these stories, there is concern here for Julia Kvin. It looked like a rather innocuous challenge, a little clip at the heels from Laura Puchs and nothing more, but clearly it left its mark on the German national team captain, who gingerly makes her way off the pitch. Now, given her history of knee injuries, you always worry when Kvin is prone. Anything that looked like they were working on the ankle on this occasion. Linda Daumann momentarily slotting in at right back in Kvin's absence, but right now it's 10 on 10 for a moment from Essen's perspective. And truth be told, it's one of the situations where if you're Jose Barkala right now, you're wondering, is it even worth risking putting Kvin back out on the pitch? Almost half an hour up at the Stadion an der Hafenstraße. I can tell you, Kvin, you just saw right side of your screen, is back on the pitch, but I think she just had a word with Daumann to say, I still need you at right back because I'm not moving freely. I say that now, and you can clearly see she wants to make a run beyond the back line. No signs of the knock. Bayern's influential number 7, one of the best players in her position in the world, Julia Kvin, a leader. So here's Harder finding Ket. That's a lovely pass. Ket looks for another for Kvin. Now Daumann. Just put a touch too much on the poke through. But you can tell, and this is no disrespect to SGS Essen, it really is just the management of the moment from the league leaders, but you can tell they've already a little bit. They clearly want to force the issue. They're going to look for more. You thought they put Essen to the sword. I don't think we're necessarily seeing that from them. Wow, Louisa Baumann, what a pass! With Caruso right there. As well. That looked like a foul throw from Julia Kvin, and women in white. Certainly felt so. You can tell as well, a real silence around the Stadion an der Hafenstraße. Damen right into the mix. First save of the game. A lot of pace on the header. Pucks a little over-ambitious there. Jack talked about wanting her side to be brave. Even came both sighted front, they press aggressively and capitalise without compromise. Maybe they can pull up. Flicked on hard as there. A foul in the mix at the near post, spotted by Franziska Wildfeuer, the referee. Ina Mahmutovic. Something tells me she is not going to get a lot of touches tonight. That touch just then was only her third of the game. I will be surprised if she breaks double digits. Meyer. 1-2 with Becca Stenner doesn't work out. Shari van Belt battles away to no avail. Caruso, pocket of space. Kept back to goal. Stanway, cross deflected, harder attacks, but the deflection favoured Parman. Yeah, Bayern clearly, they want to keep themselves in rhythm. Just under 10 minutes to go in this first half now, and normally you would assume that we're 2-0 up at half time would be in for a positive team from their head coach, and yet something tells me Jose Barkla will be asked from his players after the break. They started this game like the Champions League winners he played like, but going 2-0 up, they have certainly not made life as horrid as they could for SGS Essen. And again, if you think about teams like Barcelona, Arsenal, when they have teams in positions like this, they tend to put them to the sword, and there'll be high-scoring victories at the end of them. Right now, this is developed into a training ground routine by all accounts between these two sides. Essen, it's all about damage limitation from this point, making sure that the setback suffered in their bid for survival is as minimal as possible, which is easier said than done. But Jose Barclay will be calling for his players to send a message to Manchester United ahead of that quarter-final first leg. Unfortunately, Ramona Mayer's evening is cut short after that knock of the shins earlier with Bernadette Amani. Lauretta Elmazzi is on in her place. Elmazzi, more of a winger by trade, but will slot into that lone striker role. And if anything, her qualities might even suit Essen better in a counter-attacking situation than Mayer's. Mayer does a lot of hard work with very little reward. Elmazzi is certainly a bit of a prodigious talent in the Essen ranks. But also the quality of player that you have to think if it really does end up in a worst case scenario for Essen this season, and it does end in their first ever relegation, that players like Lauretta Elmazzi will likely find a home in the top tier with another team. Plenty on the Essen books that would fall into that category as well. The last time that Essen took points off of being in 2019. Last time they beat Bayern, you have to go back even further to 2012. Back then it was a 2-0 win for Essen. Sabrina Derpinghaus scoring a brace. Fun fact about that game is that Linda Dahmen, scorer of the second this evening for Bayern, was on the Essen books the last time they did beat the Bavarians. Fair to say both clubs have come a long way since. A lot has changed in that time. Bayern are now the dominant force of German women's football. So much so that their dominance is now being talked about as a potential downside for the Frauen-Bundesliga's marketability. But if they can convert that domestic dominance into a title win on the continent, then something tells me the Frauen-Bundesliga will be all right. And this season, if Bayern do win their fourth straight Meisterschale, which is the name given to the wonderfully decorated salad plate that teams lift at the end of a title winning season here in Germany. Then they will join Wolfsburg and Erste FFC Frankfurt as the joint record title holders in the Frauen-Bundesliga era. That's a status they'll be happy with, but ultimately they'll want that status to be all their own. As they are on the men's side of the game, Bayern want to be record title holders. And right now they are going to take some stopping en route to that status, which could be secured as early as next season. Ket, intricate, Harder, hinted offside, and the flag does go up in the end against Pernille Harder. And again, you can just tell that this isn't Bayern at their very best, because they don't have to be tonight now. There's an element of conservation, but I really do think we might see a bit of a different approach in the second half. Yes, Essen are sitting deep in a low block. They are trying to keep things as tight as possible and frustrate the 11 women of Bayern as much as the 10 women can. But Barkala will want better, will want more. He'll also want his players to avoid injuries. Now, blood on the chin of the Bayern captain, Glodis. Icelandic names are patronymic by nature. What that means is that her last name, Vigosdottir, directly translated means daughter of Vigos. As a result, you'll often find that those from Iceland go by their first names predominantly, as opposed to their last. Big old bump to the chin for Glodis, who tonight makes her 149th appearance in all competitions for Bayern. So that first leg against Manchester United will be a bit of a milestone moment for one of the most graceful centre-backs around. She's got a lot of grace to her game, but make no mistake, she has the desire to get stuck in and make her physical presence felt as well. She's not happy with the challenge from Julie Terlinden that has led. And maybe we'll be 10 on 10 through to half time. Ooh, Stanway let it run. Almost took her eye off the ball a touch too much there with El Matzi lurking. 4 minutes of time added on at the end of the first 45. Bayern looking for a third before the break. Essen player too many. And again, though, his side to produce a Champions League level performance. I'm not sure Pernille Harder tries to do that again. Perhaps a little bit more reward against an Essen team that are shutting down the Bayern channels every chance they get. Claudius is ready to get back out on the pitch. Darman. That's where you can see Essen are taking the situation very seriously. Not sure Bayern would. And Gilles now headed back into the mix, already with 1 assist, the Canadian. Such a danger in the air, Vanessa Gilles. The danger levels haven't dropped just yet for Essen. Darman wins it back for Bayern. Simon to Gwyn. Lovely back heel from Gwyn to find Darman. Stanway, pocket of space now. Ket. Stanway. Ket. Lovely play by Ket, tried to go for the cutback. Relentless, approaching half-time. Stanway can't beat her marker, but what a challenge to keep Bayern on the ball. Harder. Plenty of red shirts in the middle to aim for if a cross was forthcoming, but they want to work it in a more intricate manner here, Bayern. Clipped in by Simon. 2-1 wins out against Harder. Now does bring a stop to it. She's the head there. Paula Flach, and the replay proves that she didn't. Shot into the midriff. Seconds left now in this first half. All the damage done early. They're lined up in the middle. Harder's there, Palman with the punch clear. And Asian threat. A nice first half. The damage all done early. Pernilla Harder opened the scoring. Linda Darman doubled the advantage, but that was after Jacqueline Meissner had already been sent off for the home side. Jose Barkala called for a Champions League level performance from his side. He's not getting it so far, but they are too. welcome to the Stadion an der Hafenstraße, where we are kicking things off on Google Pixel Frauen-Bundesliga Matchday 21. Two teams at opposite ends of the table. Essen were hoping for an almighty upset, and their odds of that have all but been dashed. A nightmare could have much. Pernilla Harder opening the scoring early. Jacqueline Meissner sent off for a last moment foul. Linda Dahlmann doubling the advantage inside 10 minutes. And as a result, Bayern lead 2-0 at the start of this second half. The start on course for a 19th win from 20 in the Frauen-Bundesliga. 35 games since they last suffered defeat back in October of 2024. Back then it was a loss to Wolfsburg, one of the only sides that have proven competitive with Bayern consistently over the last couple of years. But since then, 32 wins and just 3 draws. 2 of those draws coming against Eintracht Frankfurt, the other coming this season against rock bottom Karl Zeiss Jena. Football is a funny old game, and that match will stand out this season as a massive outlier from Bayern's dominance, where they had over 30 shots on goal and just, no matter what they tried, could not score. Since then, they've gone on a goal-scoring tear. And of course, one of the storylines coming into this game was that this is the DFB Pokal, or one of the 2 DFB Pokal semi-finals will be treated to at the start of April. And interestingly, the way the cup competition has worked out this season, it's the top 2 and the bottom 2 of Essen and Jena. And they all talk about the cup writing its own rules, but if you go by favourites, then we're all set for a Wolfsburg-Bayern final in the cathedral city of Cologne in early May. That was a lovely pass to break the lines to find Harder from Ket. Harder did well to try and take it on the turn, but squeezed. You can tell as well that Jose Barkala has stoked the fires under his players. Firmly on the front foot as they look for a third. Stanway sends that one well off target. Here's a rare chance for the hosts. El Matzi. Behind the Dahlmann, chipping in defensively as well. Essen have not had a shot on goal this evening, and I don't think we're putting our necks too far out the window to suggest that it might stay that way until the end of proceedings. there from Paula Flach. She is set to depart from the world of German football, but we have very much enjoyed her talents, her performances since she arrived. Has said that she wants to leave Bayern with as many titles as possible, and based on the way they're playing, there is talk of potentially winning a treble. Oh, Harder with a chance! They have been few and far between for Bayern since they took a 2-0 lead. The visitors not forcing the issue in damage limitation mode, but Bayern want more goals. They've scored 20 across the 5 league games in 2026. A lot of communication going on the pitch. Bayern have done their job in terms of silencing the home crowd for the most part, but they drum up the atmosphere every now and again. And again, the message that the Essen fans will want to send to their side is that, yeah, right, today's a dead rubber. Things have not gone their way against the league leaders on a night where everything had to go their way. Things might get worse here. Amani. Arquette, swing and a miss. Arquette, one of the breakers of 2025. All ended with that nation. With those were 2 matches against one of the best teams in the world, where she was the standout player for Germany. What a pass that is. To Sterner, finds El Matzi. This is good from Essen, but Gilles shuts the door. Now what Essen do have is a corner. To turn this into something. I have to cherish this moment. I said I wouldn't be sticking my neck too far out the window to suggest that Essen wouldn't have a shot on goal this game, but here's the chance. Franziska Wildfeuer has spotted something in the mix that she doesn't like. Simon just standing her ground there. Corner comes in. Plattner was underneath it. And the shot from Duon will go down as the first of the game for Essen. In the 54th minute of proceedings, the woman who scored the winning goal against Werder Bremen in the DFB Pokal quarterfinals to set up a tie with Bayern in the final. Ella Duon on loan from Köln, a former Essen youth player who has returned to her former club. Vols scored by Ella Duon in a on the third goal. If anything, now a 2-0 deficit. Very comfortable side. And term 8. Still 5. That's exactly. Does feel like this might Matchday 23 on hook of the table. Don't but Matt, a little bit of a helping hand. Well, still, those respective seasons have run their courses. Daumann sees her shot blocked by Brooks. Daumann, though, wants another bite at the apple. Palman again dealing with the danger. Lovely play by Linda Daumann. Really enjoying her football this season. Described by Jose Barkler as a legend and one of the best players in Germany. Daumann, who joined Bayern from Essen back in 2019, 173 appearances, 38 goals for Essen. This is a nice play by Bayern, harder through to Simon, they're waiting in the middle, goes to Ket, to Daumann, on the overlap is glorious, Daumann goes it alone! Rattles the post as she's denied her second of the evening. Glorious with a cross now from out wide, the centre-back getting into an advanced position, Gilles with a half shot, half cross that turns into nothing of neither. Simon round the corner from Stanway, lovely ball stood up at the back post and Gwyn attacked, but underneath it in the end. Simon bends that one in, but same result. That penalty box is packed out by Essen players and they are repelling everything being thrown at them right now. Simon with a back heel to find Ket. Ket to Stanway. Stanway to the byline. Sterner stays with her the whole way. Jose Barkala dips into his options on the bench. Stina Balizaya comes on for Julia Gwyn, and it's Georgia Stanway making way for Natalia Padilla-Bidas. With Stanway off, I'd imagine Caruso will drop into holding midfield alongside Bernadetta Mani. You might have Linda Daumann drop into that number 10 role behind found a teammate for a third goal for Bayern. They will have to settle for another corner. Straight into the side netting from Caroline Simon there. That one a touch more disappointing, the delivery. Jacques making a couple of substitutions as well. Micah Berendsen coming on for Julie Linden. And it was Shari van Bell, the other woman to make way. See this chance again, Daumann. Everyone waiting for the pass to be played. She decided to go it alone. Unfortunately, the post had other ideas. Bernadetta Mani Well worked to Ket. Caruso, back to goal. Ket. Harder heads down. There's just no room to manoeuvre for Bayern in that Essen box, and as a result they can't quite pick their way through. The hosts, they continue to chip away, and of course the game against Manchester United in their quarter-final first leg in the Women's Champions League will likely take on very different characteristics to this one. But the key for Bayern is they have to keep themselves sharp. They want to win the treble, even if they've wrapped up the Frauen-Bundesliga with games to spare. They cannot afford to let their level drop. Here's Caruso. I went for the killer cross, looking for maybe Simon arriving at the back post, but it was ambitious, to say the least. And things continue to go from bad to worse for SGS Essen. Penalty conceded for the foul on Pernille Harder. So, I mean, it's not the most scene. Poor old Micah Berenson comes off the bench for Essen, and one of her first involvements is to concede a penalty that allows Pernille Harder to continue her fine goal-scoring form and maybe add what would be a third on a game that's already won by Bayern. She has already missed once from the spot against Leipzig. Pernille Harder makes no mistake this time though. Louisa Palmer sent the wrong way as Pernille Harder gets her 14th goal of the season. She is now alone at the top of the Frauen-Bundesliga goal-scoring charts, courtesy of that spot kick. So often the star of the show for Bayern, and she has been again tonight. A brace against Köln, a brace against Essen. Manchester United, be warned, Pernille Harder is in red-hot form. She's in red-hot form and hungrier than ever for a deep run in the Champions League. She was one of the players that was bitterly disappointed when Bayern were knocked out last season. 6-1 defeat on aggregate against Lyon. As a result, they missed out on a spot in the semi-finals, Bayern, but this time they have their sights set on a Final Four berth. Of course, that meeting with Manchester United was a reunion and a quick one with Lea Schuller, who left Bayern in the winter to move to Manchester. Be an interesting subplot. The reverse fixture, the second leg, is going to be played at the Allianz Arena, and Bayern have already announced that 15,000 tickets have been sold so far, and they are expecting more to be sold between now and then. Stina Balizaya gets to the long ball, cross to Ket, and I think Bayern are a little harshly done by there not to get a corner. Becca Sterner doing some desperate defending at the back post. Just under 20 minutes of normal time remaining in this one. A game that, truth be told, was won and done and dusted inside 10 minutes. It's been a dead rubber since. Bayern have really just gone through the motions for the most part. They are still trying to score goals. Dalman looking to join Harder on a brace. Harder wouldn't say no to her first hat-trick of the season. She had a chance against Köln and missed, but Simon now finding Natalia Padilla-Bidas. A killer cross from Caroline Simon. And Padilla-Bidas once again off the bench to him on the score sheet. She is becoming quite the super sub for Bayern. It's all about the quality of cross from Simon, but Padilla-Bidas still had to provide the finish. She does with aplomb. Bayern maintain their average of 4 goals a game in the calendar year, and Harder will not get her hat-trick as she is again brought off early. Energy for bigger. And Bernadette Amani has also made way. The players on Edna Imade, the number 29, and Barbara Dunst, the number 28. For Ina Mahmutovic, one of the easiest clean sheets he's picked up all season. She hasn't faced a single shot. The only shots that Essen have produced was well off target from Ella Tuon. For Mahmutovic, it'll be her 10th clean sheet of the season in the Frauen-Bundesliga in her 14th game. Number 23 all told in what is 41 in all. Oh, Imade. She's made a habit of scoring with her first touches off the bench and couldn't quite find the magic touch there. It was with her first touch that she scored on her Frauen-Bundesliga debut against Freiburg. And then she scored on her DFB Pokal debut as well, with Bayern beating Hamburg comfortably to set up the tie with Essen. Matzi making a nuisance of herself, but not quite enough to really pose a threat. Dalman. Simon forcing the issue, wants a goal of her own, and Palman denies her. Sharp save at the near post there from Louisa Palman. To cover herself in glory. But she was as respectable as possible as well. Dunst tried to be a little bit too creative there with that pass. Does well to just about stay in possession. Simon. Cheeky. But dealt with by Dubitsky. I just wonder as well whether Bayern themselves might be disappointed that they didn't really get to send a message to Manchester United. The way the game played out, it wasn't the game for that, where they could go hell for leather looking for 8-9 goals against the 10 women of Essen. If anything, the sending off saw Essen shut up shop even more than they were ready to when it was 11 on 11, as Caruso goes for the long-range effort to try and catch out Louisa Palmer, but doesn't get that one right. This has been more about Bayern's professionalism and seeing it all out. But they might have hoped for a sterner test, even from the side currently second from bottom and staring at would be defeat number 13 in the current campaign. Not a fun position for Essen to be in, and Bayern, the league leaders, certainly have not been in the mood to show mercy. And they've had two great escapes in the relegation battle before. Essen, one in 2010, one in 2021. Can they pull off another? The jeopardy just keeps rising in that particular department. Personally, if you'll indulge me in an opinion, I really think Essen made a horrible choice when they didn't let Jessica Wisman stay on as head coach. She's still involved with the club, Wisman, working as an assistant under Elaine Jacques, but wins that Essen did produce, their only two wins of the season, both coming under Wisman. The fact that they saw the turnaround, they saw the improvement in performance and went, you know what, we'll still bring in a new head coach. I just think it was a huge mistake. If anything, they needed to stick with Wisman and just hope for the best at that point. But they were in the ascendancy, they were improving, they were on the up. And then the change of head coach again just seemed to almost undo all the hard work done. After getting it so wrong with Robert Augustin and Thomas Gersner at the start of the season, there will be an element where if Essen do go down, the decision makers at the club will have to look at themselves and admit that they played a pivotal part in it with their decision making. Dangerous, 2-1, well, hint of a back pass but waved away. And for Essen, we've seen all the warning stories, the other traditional powerhouses that once used to be a force in German women's football just fall on hard times in the modern era, where reputation doesn't go as far and ultimately big clubs that are then linking themselves with big men's teams just have an advantage that can't be competed with. Essen, they kind of had their spot. German women's pyramid. They were the feeder club, the platform for young players to go to enjoy a bit of a family feel and ultimately use the club as a springboard to bigger and better things. And even that status is under threat right now, with other clubs in the Ruhr region really starting to come on strong, Borussia Dortmund chief amongst them. And when you sign a player like Alex Popp, that alone for Dortmund has more pulling power than Essen could ever hope for. Because the players that will want to play with Popp are players that won't want to play with Ramona Meyer in the same way, or Jacqueline Meissner the same way, and that's no disrespect to the Essen players. That's a huge compliment to Alex Popp and the status she holds in the women's game here in this country. And that is why Dortmund have made such big efforts to sign her. That's why they've given her a 3-year contract, because even if her body, as she herself describes, is a ticking time bomb, she'll be a huge character and presence off the pitch, as a guiding presence. Someone that's been there to the highest level, knows what it takes, and can offer sage advice to some of the younger counterparts in the Dortmund ranks. They should be in the second tier next season, Borussia Dortmund, but that is not guaranteed right now. I tell you, if Alex Popp ends up next season playing in the third tier of women's football, though, you've got to feel for the back lines that she's going to go up against. They are in for an absolute bullying experience against one of the best around. It will be a complete mismatch. It'll be so lopsided in her favour, it wouldn't even be funny. Padilla Bidas looking to make something happen. Looking to add to her earlier goal. She is the type of player that Barkla has now brought on and will be hungry to make an impact and make an impression. Because her game time is so limited, she has to make the most of every opportunity, Padilla Bidas. And I have to say, she's found a clinical touch in recent weeks. Bayern's squad can't all be full of star players. There's got to be a couple of role players in there as well that are of a very high level, and Padilla Bidas seems to fit that bill nicely. Dahlmann can't quite pick out the pass to her there. 2-1 is crowded out. Lucy Zeringer. Kett able to turn, feeding the run of Simon. Zeringer looking for that little pass in field, offered the pivot spot, but Dahlmann couldn't pick her out. From Bayern's perspective, it's a bit like the first half, where they scored those 2 quick goals inside the first 10 minutes and then really took their foot off the pedal, and they've done that here. They scored the penalty and then Padilla Bidas added another to make it 4-0, and since then they've gone down a gear or 2 again. Not a bad warm-up act for Manchester United, but I do think they might have wanted to be pushed a little bit harder in the lead up to that game. Takes place on Wednesday. Imade. Zeringer is beaten to the loose ball. "17 years old, Lucy Zeringer, the number 33. Normally comes on at centre-back, today in holding midfield. Suggests she's got a bit of versatility to her game, the teenager. As Dahlmann's penalised for a foul on Paula Flach, who really has been through the walls this evening, the Essen left-back. Credit to her, the way she's battled through most of them. They've only had 1 shot on goal from Essen tonight. Could they get another from this free kick? Chance is still alive. Leonie Kupp trying to turn. Vanessa Furst closed down by Padilla Bidas. And then a vertical pass that is a bit of a hit and hope through the middle. Pierced the lines, but no one able to make more of it. Tearinger. Touch play there with Dahlmann. Bayern, who had won 15 straight before the 0-0 draw with Kaisers Jena back on match day 3. Seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Today, it'll be 17 wins in a row in the Frauen-Bundesliga for the dominant force. Assuming they go perfect and Wolfsburg go perfect, Bayern could wrap up the title as early as matchday 23 when they're on the road against Union Berlin. And that would be with 3 games to spare. They've already broken the 100 goal mark in all competitions. .78 and counting in the Frauen-Bundesliga. There's 8 from the DFB Pokal campaign so far, 4 from the DFB Super Cup. And 14 in the Women's Champions League so far. Balisaya back across for Imade! In their warm-up act ahead of the first leg of their Women's Champions League quarter-final against Manchester United, Bayern cruising to another victory in the Frauen-Bundesliga. Set to go 14 points clear at the top of the table for the time being at least. Edna Imade off the bench to get in on the goal-scoring act. Make that 4 goals in 6 games now for Bayern since she was recalled from loan in the winter break. Lea Schüller left to join Manchester United. Edna Imade had her loan deal with Real Sociedad cut short because Bayern needed reinforcements, and what a reinforcement she has proven to be. 3 goals in the Frauen-Bundesliga, 1 in the Cup. Brilliant stuff. It's 105 goals now in all competitions for Bayern. Only 3 seasons have they scored more. In the 2018-19 campaign, they scored 106. In the 2021-22 season, it was 120, and the club record from the season before that, the 2020-21 campaign, stands at 121. They've got at least 6 games left in the Frauen-Bundesliga, a minimum of 1 in the DFB Pokal, though likely 2, and a minimum of 2, though likely more, in the Women's Champions League as well. So something tells me that club record is going to be smashed this season. The 90 minutes is up, we've got 3 minutes added on. This is always likely to be a record-breaking season given the expansion to 14 teams in the Frauen-Bundesliga. But Bayern that winning mentality of theirs, the demands that they put on themselves, would have meant that they still would have wanted to break those records in pretty impressive fashion. 82 is the most they've ever scored in a single Frauen-Bundesliga season. With tonight's 5, they're already on 79, so they only need 4 more. Again, I reckon that record, like the title, might be wrapped up with games to spare. They still want more. Padilla Piras, edge of the area. Imade to Balizaya. Out to Dunst now. Again, 5, 6 in the middle. Wait for a cross. It goes to Balizaya down by the byline instead. Dunst still thought better of the cross there. No real need for hesitation at this stage of the game. Dunst, the latest Bayern player to take out Paula Flach, the Essen left back. Imade to Padilla Piras. Oh! Piras. Seriga, she goes for goal with an effort of a much higher degree of difficulty. A little lackadaisical from Bayern in the dying embers of this game with a 5-0 lead. That should have been a second goal for either Imade or Padilla Piras, one of the two. Somehow Essen survive that particular scare. Bayern München continue to march towards a 4th straight Meisterschale. Up against second from bottom, SGS Essen. All the damage done inside the first 10 minutes. Pernilla Harder's opening goal, Jacqueline Meissner sending off, and Linda Daumann doubling Bayern's advantage against the 10 women of Essen. And from there it became a bit of a training ground routine for the league leaders. They went through the motions, they found 3 more goals in the second half. They go 14 points clear at the top of the table on Friday night, at least. But it's job done, as they put another dent. Timing out for the only all-women's team left in the Frauen-Bundesliga. Games like tonight were never going to determine their fate. Bigger games to come if they want to survive a first ever relegation. James Surrogate, your match commentator, delighted to have the pleasure of your company from the Stadion an der Hafenstraße. Manchester United might have been watching on. Bayern have sent a small message. A resounding victory. The most dominant force in German women's football are now going to take their talents back to the continent. They've got big ambitions, they've got big plans. Manchester United stand in the way in the quarter-finals, but on this, Bayern clearly the favourites. 5-0, the score tonight against Essen. Thanks for joining. Hear from you again next time.